Hello and welcome to Warblog. Hopefully this will have audio. I'm on an I'm on an incredibly old laptop that I've rescued. So we're going to look at Shilabo. So there it is. I'm actually in bed, which seems a bit odd really. So I'm just sort of lying here, on my side, sort of speaking into this microphone with my super sort of large screen. Hence you can see most of the map. Usually I do my recordings on my laptop. I do everything on my laptop. This is a laptop, but it's just got this huge screen. So we're going to play mode. I don't want to do a long video, but I just want to get something recent that's got some audio. This is part of the Ogden War. It's interesting. It's part of the Ogden War, and yeah, that's right. The other stuff's not there, which I'm basing off of this video, which is there. I've got the next one, which comes in the series. I'm just following this documentary through, and every time it says such and such a place was liberated on this date, Somalian forces take Shilabo on the 13th of July. Werner's the next one, I think, on the 27th of July. Just going through it, and with the intention that when I've done it, it will put more things into perspective. For example, we can go in and look at the Ogden War series, which is sort of pretty much becoming a series. We've got the overall thing here, which looks quite good, I think. But we've done, I think, Calafo there, and then Goudet, which is up there, and then this place here. Werder is just about there, I think. Be interesting. I'm just going to go in and sort of do a play now, so we can look at the map. I don't want to play this one now, but this is Ward here. Now that's interesting, really. And that says Goudi, and this says Qualafo, and this says Shilabo. So we've done this, and I'm just doing this now. But all of the spellings on here are different. This is why I get confused, because this is Goudi, it's Goudet. So let's not worry too much about that, but we'll delete that game and go into the one we've just sort of been looking at here. Now this is called, I can't remember what it said on there, but this is the Werner one. Oh no, this is the Shilabo one. I'm not doing the Werner one yet. So again, the spelling was slightly different, and so the maps are sort of quite, when you sort of think, well, we've got the full campaign and we've got each little battles, there's not a lot to say about the terrain and the geography, which is one of the things I'm having a slight issue here with, is because the maps don't look very interesting. But I never force an interesting map. Here I've compromised slightly by adding what I considered might be more undulating terrain. I've done it on the other as well, and I think it makes a little bit of a difference. Just partly to break it up, because otherwise it really would be just green, because it's all bush. But there are some sort of contours. I keep toying with the idea of contours, but they're just so complex in the sense that, I really like the sort of what you see is what you get type game environment. I mean, if you have to start thinking about contours, you're taking your brain to another level that's not so intuitive, and these are all designed to be maximally intuitive, so there's nothing here that you can't see visually immediately that you can't interpret with your mind's eye. So if you were to say to someone, well, this is the advance to Shilabo, there's nothing obscure that they wouldn't be able to understand. Now, contours could be added some way that would be maybe slightly intuitive to people that know, but most people they wouldn't. So here you can sort of say, well, this is the road, and you can see these things are sort of hills. But if this goes down or up, you wouldn't necessarily really know. But anyway, so now I'm not sure, to be quite honest, what the game balance on this is like. But essentially, obviously, what you can't necessarily see is Shilabo is there, and this is the town, and it's not in hills, but I've given it fortified status, and so that's the objective. And now, obviously, you got to go up there. Now, there's a few things to sort of think about on this. You could contemplate, and I'm working on the fly here. You could somehow contemplate going all around here and down here and attacking, basically avoiding hills. Now, I don't think that's a really sort of great way to do it, but you could integrate that with a greater scheme. Say, well, we're going to fight our way up this road, but we're also going to send some, motorized units, because there's nothing there other than a small line of motorized infantry. You could probably send a task force that way, but you might encounter their tanks. So again, it's all sort of, food for thought on, how that could be done. Similarly, you could sort of fight your way around this way and come up. There's nothing really there apart from some artillery which you could sort of possibly storm through, or cutting across one line of hills and then there's nothing else here, another, similarly do that. So what I'm saying is there's quite a few approaches here on how to do it, but I think what you've also got to bear in mind is that the Ethiopians tend to have greater air power. We've not really looked at that yet, but I'm pretty sure you'll find that they've got more aircraft, probably 5 or 6. And further, I'm not really sure how many troops they have. Most of what they get comes on. I did this deliberately, or at least I did it consciously. Most of what they got comes on sort of in staggered turns. So this is just a small amount of what you've got in total. So you can't really sort of say, okay, well, we're going to use this and we're going to force something. You've got to sort of prepare your strategy. And as I said, your strategy could involve any one of these sort of ways of approaching whatever this place is, Shilabo. So, and I sort of wonder really whether or not going up this road is actually a good way to do it, because everything would have inherent defense. But I think to some extent it would be quite useful to control the road, but really to what extent would you want to do that? Now, I also think that you've got to sort of bear in mind what I call the role play element of it, in the sense that you really can't afford to allow the Ethiopians access to this road here. So for example, here there should really be an objective that the Ethiopians, or the Somalians, are not allowed to lose. You could call it a supply line objective. To some extent, they've got to control this road and parts of this road, and you could sort of suggest, well, if they were fighting around here, they'll be fighting. I don't want to say out of supply, because I don't believe in that sort of level of detail in this sort of level of game. That's more a sort of operational thing. They're all going to be in supply for intrinsic purposes for this sort of battle or this engagement. I mean, in theory, they could be out of supply, or even more importantly, out of command if they came around this way or this way. But I think the whole point is you've got to take this road, maintaining this point here, and actually somehow connect this road to Shilabo. I think that would make common sense. So sort of taking this and then coming around here and taking Shilabo, so that if we reload that and do this, I think if we were sort of to do that and then to define, then to end up with this as sort of what we control, I don't think that that would really cut the mustard. I think we've really got to sort of, if this was sort of what we won, we didn't get this road up there, and we didn't, I don't think that's sort of that's an acceptable way of doing it. That would be a gameplay, or I call a rule play. You're just sort of manipulating things. Or if you're playing with, I can't remember these terms, but if you're trying to do it, I can't remember. There's this particular way of saying it in good faith, or you're trying to do it, say perhaps slightly realistically. I think basically what you'd end up, you have to end up with sort of controlling all of that. I mean, if the Ethiopians have fallen back to this line here, that's fair enough. But to control Shilabo, you probably have to control these sort of, a few points. I mean, you could control up to there, and they could be controlling a defensive line across there. That would again be fair enough. But it's got to be a sort of across the board sort of thing. So I think what you've got to do is you've got to contend with this flank, you've got to contend with that flank, and you've got to go up centrally. But at the same time, if you ended up with a position that was like, oops, if you ended up with a position that was like that, I think that would be also acceptable and plausible. Still can't remember what that term is. Like good faith. I know I will think about it after the game, quite simply. But that's that really. I'm sort of looking. What's 11 minutes? So I'll maybe give it a little twirl. Again, I think the thing to do is to sort of consider certain strategic options early on. So I think what I want to do is firstly get a grip of what we got. So we've got 4 mechanized, 4 mechanized, 4 motorized, 4 motorized. So we've got a clear structure there of units. And what I want to do, I don't want to use my air power, because I do think and consider that the Ethiopians have air superiority. And I like the way that this works, because basically, although I've got the aircraft, I can't use them. Now, I'm not sure. I'm going to wait to see how many aircraft the Ethiopians have. I could have looked before on the order of battle, but I didn't. So I'm just going to leave that for the time being. But what I'm trying to do now is to consider how I treat these flanks and this central thrust. Now, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to commit the highly mobile elements here to moving along these flanks, because they're longer distances, etc. So I'm going to actually split up. I'm going to actually halve it. Now, I wouldn't necessarily halve it if I didn't know there were reinforcements coming on, but I'm going to send half this way and half that way. So let's just see what that allows me to do. Interesting. Now, that might not have been the best way of doing it, but I'm okay with that. What I'm saying is I could have taken them up the road for some extra movement, but I'm just trying to push these flanks over so that I've got sort of control. Okay, that's as far as I'm going to get that way. And all this difference in between I'm going to fill out on the next turn. In theory, I'm assuming there's nothing motorized that can really get anywhere. I mean, you might be able to take this down here, but to be quite honest, I don't think even that would really get too far down this road. And it would be on its own. I mean, other than that, there's nothing. I mean, you could get 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, they're not going to get any of this anywhere near this sort of entrance here. So I think we're safe on that. Okay, so as you can see, they've got 5 aircraft. Now, there's no. To be quite honest, actually, on that first turn, I could have used my aircraft because there was no counter air. We could use this air power now on these units, but because of this decision I made first, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother with the air power just yet because I'm not going to play this game too much further. What I'm going to do is basically focus on these defensive lines. Now, I'm going to move this forward. I mean, it's only motorized, it's not even mechanized, so I just want to get an idea of how far down this road I could exploit if I chose to. So that's 0.75, 1.5 at best, 3. You could probably get to there at best, but he's going to slow down in the hills, so you know there's nothing happening there. Now, what I'm sort of thinking here, you see, we could at the very least be taking this battle see if we can take these high points early on. Just try and force this wall here, keep a defensive line there. And to some extent, contain. That's interesting. That's a sort of glitch. I think whatever happened to him was applied to him or something. Anyway, so we've now got that line of control there. We've brought these elements forward. I'm going to leave all this for the core reinforcements around Shilabo. So we've got some sort of forward defensive points. There, so right, so this is the second turn. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We shouldn't really have 5, but we have 5 elements all stacked up there. So with some armor, so we've got 2 units of armor, 2 lots of artillery, and we've got 3 of these infantry units with 1 in there. So what we're going to do here, I think, well, what I really want to do should really be trying to get these onto the road. I'm going to try and move this infantry this way. The infantry are going to be doing the hard fighting in there. One more move. Well, we can't fight at anything. We can't shoot anything yet. We can't fire at anything. There's nothing in range. Now let's commit the armor to at least defending this spearhead. You shouldn't be able to get in there. No? Okay. think we can push them this way. I'll leave that there. So here, what we're again trying to do is to really try and push on this flank. So they're worth 2 in defence, and we've got 4 of these, so that would be 12. So that would be 6 to 1 if we can get all these onto that. 1, 2, 3. I couldn't do that if I tried. It's something to do with sort of just a twiddly thing on the mouse, and what it results in is you selecting the image, and it's a sort of bit of an odd one. I think it might involve a right click as opposed to a left click as well. I don't know. We should have possibly a 7 to 1 on this because we've got a bit of a surround, a 10% bonus. It was a 6 to 1, and we pushed them back. So there's our efforts on this front line going to good effect. They're all used up, but these are worth a lot more. Now I don't want to lose this sort of flank here, so I'm going to sort of commit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push this up there. They're not going to attack me. It's a bit tight, but I'm going to go for it. It's going to be a 5 to 1, but because I'm mechanized versus infantry, I'll probably get some sort of bonus. Pushing up to a 6 to 1. Oh, look, a DE. So that was nice. So we managed to push both these units back, inflicting reasonable losses on them. 2 depressions there, 3 depressions there. Here, well, I think that the idea is to get into the hills. Oh, how much movement has he got? He should be able to get there. Oh no, because we've moved into a zone of control. Okay, well this is everything against that. We eliminated them 7 to 1. We've still got a little bit of movement. Can anyone get in there? Yes, the mechanized can. No one else has any movement for anything of any worth. Okay, that's fine. So we're pushing up on that flank, pushing up on this flank successfully, pushing up this road, but it's going to be slow, but we should get our artillery in there. But what I'm going to do, just for a laugh, because I want to end this video sort of soonish, I was looking at some of my YouTube stats, and they're all about as crap as they can get. But it basically said that I'd had about 900 views in last month or something like that. Not a lot when you consider over a month or whatever. I can't remember what it was. I might be wrong. It was just I didn't really look too intensely, but and the minutes viewed were like 900, and I mean, obviously it wasn't quite that, but it was pretty much. It was like 930, and the minutes viewed was like 905 or something. And basically, I thought that doesn't. It's not too hard to sort of calculate that that's less than a minute per view, especially when you consider that some people, you know, especially me, I will watch a fairly significant. I haven't been watching much recently because I've been so distracted on other things, but you know, there's no point in making these hour-long videos. I mean, I quite often do them because I like doing them. You know, I like talking and things like that. But you know, I'm at 24 minutes. I don't think anyone's really going to even get this far. You know, if anyone ever does this, it's quite amazing, really. But what I'm saying is, you know, so I mean, I'm just going to try and keep it short. But what I'm going to do is I put all these into air defense because what I'm going to do now sort of for a laugh, but I don't think it's that much of a laugh. We're going to have a big battle and a big air battle because now the Ethiopians, theory, why won't they go in there? That's odd. I'll have to look into that. I suppose no matter how many times I do this, it's not going to work. I don't know why I keep trying. No, I'll really have to look into that. That's disappointing. I think I might actually leave it there because all it's going to do really is sort of try and basically pull this line down here. I think these things are just going to get beaten up, you know, quite heavily. Over here, it might be worth pushing these into these hills, but I think that this strategy of pushing these this way, pushing these that way, is actually going to be pretty effective. I think these are quite big task forces. Let's just see whether or not they're, you know, they're active otherwise, but they just don't want to do that air defense. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that, and then use the extra time that I might have done in recording into maybe sorting that out because that's important. And I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.